No doubt you must have noticed, following my work, how easily people fall prey to tribalism, partisanship, ideologies, cults, fads, investment schemes, marketing ploys, exploitative branding, various cultural movements, radicalization, polarization, and even scientific fads. Have you noticed this? This is a theme of the epistemic work that we've been doing over the last 5 years or so. We've talked about all the dangers and traps of this kind of stuff, the dangers of ideology. Well, so what's really going on here? Well, fundamentally, all these problems stem from groupthink. This is what happens when you get a bunch of people together and none of them just sit and think independently for themselves. And instead, they just bounce ideas off each other in an echo chamber. And the reason that happens is because it's difficult and stressful to sit alone in a room by yourself and just think original thoughts. It's much easier just to join some herd and then just kind of like blithely, obliviously go along with wherever they're going and just kind of trust in the herd. Or follow some leader and just trust in that person. So I want you to notice that humans survive in a herd. Humans construct self-serving narratives together in a herd. They use each other to reinforce a synthetic augmented reality that they project upon the world. And by using each other, they all buttress and support each other in such a way that this synthetic augmented reality becomes indistinguishable from physical reality. These are themes I've discussed elsewhere. Go see my other episodes. For example, Understanding Survival Part 1 and Part 2, How Survival Shapes Who You Are, Collective Ego, and How Ideology Works. Go see those episodes for more on this idea. I want you to think about how your survival is shaped by the herd or the tribe that you're surviving inside of. Think about the social survival pressures upon you and how they constrain and limit your mind and your intelligence. And also, of course, consider how they enable you too. So you do get benefits from the tribe and the herd. For example, going to school. All the good aspects of education and going to school, these you inherited from the herd. The only reason you know mathematics, for example, is because it was part of the tribe and the herd that you grew up in. Otherwise, you wouldn't know mathematics. Now, is it a good thing that you know mathematics? I would probably say overall, yeah, it's a good thing that you know mathematics. Even though you were indoctrinated into it, it wasn't an original intellectual achievement of your own, but it's still probably good that the average person knows mathematics. So that's good. However, have you considered the cost? What was the cost of that? Also, I'd like you to think deeply about how you want to position yourself within society. Especially you youngsters, if you're in your teens, in your 20s, your whole life is still ahead of you. And what you should be thinking about is how do you want to strategically position yourself within society? Because you're basically in society without a choice. You have no choice about whether you're going to be in society or not. Unless you're just going to be living on some remote island, you're part of society. So it's going to be the question of how are you going to be positioned within society? And what pressures will that position exert upon you and your values? Is it going to be exerting a pressure that impinges on your highest values and priorities? What do I mean by positioning yourself within society? For example, let's say that you're going to be working at Starbucks for 30 years as a manager of a Starbucks. Do you understand that working as a manager of Starbucks for 30 years, that this places severe constraints on your mind? It has to in order for you to be able to fulfill that position and not get fired? What kind of constraints is that going to place on your mind? Creatively, artistically, philosophically, spiritually, morally, cognitively, developmentally. You see? Or if you position yourself as a professor in a university system at Harvard or MIT or whatever, if you're a youngster, you might have this kind of fantasy of like, oh, I want to become one of these well-known professors at one of these top universities. That sounds like a good position to angle for. But I want you to really consider the kind of constraints and limits this is going to place upon your mind and your development. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying consider where you're going to be strategically if you become a professor at Harvard, for example. Maybe that's perfect for you. Maybe you're happy with the constraints and limits that Harvard places upon you, but maybe you're not. Think that through. Like, what do you want? For example, do you care about truth? Do you care about God? Do you care about love? Do you care about consciousness? Do you care about art and creativity? Do you care about profound intelligence and jailbreaking your mind? Do you care about not selling out? Do you care about not being compromised by forces of capitalism and financial pressures of various kinds? If you care about those things, then consider how positioning yourself within a certain institution or a tribe is going to impinge upon those